you a formal invitation in a second there, Mandeep. Thank you for being perfectly timed. Should take a couple more seconds. We're just waiting for YouTube to stream. And the moment it does, we'll be live. It's as simple as that. Your formal invitation. Perfect. Amazing. Okay. When you're ready, I suppose. Welcome, everybody. This is the Empower Hour show live every week. As you know, it's the weekly slot on a Tuesday evening between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the evening, UK time. This is in conjunction with the, I think, world famous now, Salam Radio. You can download it here in Peterborough, 106.2 FM, but also you can download the Salam Radio application from iOS and Android devices. Please join in. It'll stream with DAB. So this is the Empower Hours show. We deliver this every single Tuesday. Weekly, we bring to you the most empowering individuals that we've come across, carefully selected guests that we deliver amazing stories with. Normal, humble individuals like yourself and myself, and they go through life and achieve greatness. And what we're trying to show here is how you, as a listener, if you've already done it, that's fine, but how you can enhance yourself going further forward. So this is episode 79 with a very, very amazing individual, actually. Truly humble, very understated. You can see her there. Her name is Mandeep Kaur Moore. What can I say about our guest this week? I have to be honest with you, she's magical. So we have somebody in our presence, which I think I would classify as, we would say, when you're in the presence of greatness, and that's what's happening this week. We have with us a young lady who has achieved the giddy heights of legal representation. She's a civil litigation lawyer, and she's also an employment lawyer. She's delivered and responded in the sense of advised the London's Mayor's Office, the Greater London Council as well. And you can correct me in a moment there, Mandeep. She's an individual who has delivered a heightened level of self-awareness, service of others. Personally, I don't understand how she hasn't already got herself a Queen's Honour. But she's an individual who has been involved in countless charitable trusts, of which I'm very proud to be on the board of at least one of them, the Sikh Games, which is a concept from Australia, which she's taking globally with us all on board as well, dragging us along, kicking and streaming. And she's also one of the co-founders and board members or advisors of Khalsa fostering. Now, that's just a couple that I'm going to mention, but when we start getting close with her, she'll share so much more. So I want to humbly invite you and welcome you to the actual show. This is the Empower Hour. Mandeep, welcome.
Thank you, Sukhi Baji, for the lovely, lovely introduction.
You're not used to hearing something.
Yeah.
But it's so important in life to accept this praise as well. So let's get straight to it. You know how we get on. We enjoy ourselves. We're with us for another hour. So I hope everybody's just tuned in. Please stay with us to the end. This is going to be a power-packed interview. Mandeep, just a bit of a background information. Whereabouts are you from? Where were you born? UK, etc. Please carry on.
Yeah, so I was born in London. I've grown up in Southall, West London, which I'm sure most of you are aware of.
Massive.
Yeah, and we've got films like Bend It Like Beckham that were filmed there. So that's where that's where I grew up with my family. We've now moved over to Virginia Water in Surrey. So my parents have, since 1989, they've had their businesses there. So it's kind of always been our hub. They've still got businesses there. So it very much is, really a place really close to my heart.
Well done. Well done. So thank you for sharing that. So how many siblings are you? Are you an only child? Or?
So I have one older brother, very lucky to have me, of course.
Of course. You can't
as his younger sister.
If you're watching tonight, you are very lucky to have Mandeep as his younger sister.
Yeah, I think his children are probably more luckier to have a cool Buji.
I love it.
But yeah. So I've got one older brother. He has a lovely wife, my babuji, and a nephew and a niece, and there is also mum and dad.
Perfect. So a very nice nuclear family, which is very intellect. And you said, I mean, on many, many occasions we've been on meetings and stuff, and I've seen your gorgeous nephew and niece, and they've been jumping around and making your life a little hard to try and be professional at that time. But you manage it so well, and your heart's full of love. So love it. So Mandeep, just a little question to myself. I mean, in life we talk about significant moments that have added some value to your life and your journey. Now I understand you're in the legal environment, so you're in the legal journey, you're a solicitor, qualified solicitor, and you actually, as you said, as I said earlier, you consult at a very, very high level, and you're involved at very much a governmental sort of like level and local government level. So could you tell us a little bit about your journey within school and how education was for you?
So really, I really enjoyed school. We went to a local school, both myself and my brother, one which was walking distance, because my mum didn't drive,
Hmm.
and she really wanted to kind of take us on those journeys, herself as well, teaching us our like Japanese vibe on the way there and on the way back,
Interesting. Deep
and
prayer, yeah.
testing us, yeah, and testing us, giving us good history lessons and history tests on the journeys there. So yeah, we went to a school really local. It was actually really enjoyable. I would say that I really enjoyed kind of all the varying areas within school. I really enjoyed school. I wasn't one of those that was, just looking forward to kind of just the holidays. I actually it was a really nice kind of balanced environment in school.
Mm.
The secondary school I went to, that was a sports college, so that was like yay, yay, yay. So there was obviously like extracurricular activities that I could participate in every single day of the week, to a point where one of the days of the week I used to, because it was held in the same hall, I used to
Mm.
balance between badminton and trampolining. So I was actually signed up to six different sports because I was just, yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
And to be honest, that's a really unique conversation that we're having, because from South Asian descent, and um, supporting children in specific. We're talking about it now with reference of how many Asian people, South Asian people, are actually in the football arena or sports per se from the British community. But there's something else as well, that there is also that added. It seems to be less and less now. Obviously, it seems to be very rare to find this kind of disassociation between girl and boy. But with yourself, actually being involved in sports. So, can you tell me a little bit about how you were involved in sports? Because you said you were good at badminton or whatever the other contexts were.
Yeah, so I think it was just a case of I the kind of upbringing that I had and the kind of people I had around me. I think the world was literally, I felt like the world was my oyster. I never felt any kind of
Mm.
stops on my journey. If anything, my parents really encouraged me. So my mum, when she was really young, she was a really good athlete, like kind of really at the local level. And because she was like the oldest child in her kind of extended family,
Yeah.
so my nanaji, my granddad, maternal grandfather, he was the first to get married of all of his siblings. My mum was the first child. She was a girl. As much as my nanaji actually wanted to kind of push her and to do all of those things, it was all the kind of added pressure of the extended family, which meant that when it went to her kind of going away from home to take part in sports, there was always this restriction to say no, like she's basically carrying our family's like dignity and izzat, so you can't let her go out. So it was, I think from that side, my parents felt like they just wanted to push me in whatever I wanted to be, and they didn't want
Mm.
the fact that I was born into, a female or a male, that should never restrict the opportunities that you have. And
Mm.
why should that ever be deemed as negative, especially coming from the Sikh faith, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was going to just touch on that just a second ago. Sorry about that, but you know, it's really inspiring to hear that your mum, Auntie G, I would call, yeah, has already had that earlier journey, but actually had a bit of a stigma attached to being a female, which I think is just amazing to hear. And the fact that your actual maternal grandfather was for it, but because of the extended family and her being the eldest of that sort of the females at the time, this is quite regularly a challenge when it comes to South Asian culture, which has moved on in India as well, in India
Yeah.
specific, in Pakistan, and a lot of movements have been made in the sense of equality. Now, you touched on Sikhism, and you touched being a Sikh yourself, and how that aligns with that equality. So, I also know that your Nanaji, which is your maternal grandfather, was also from a lineage of sort of being involved in the army. So,
Yeah.
did that help? Was that something that was also something that was very positive in that environment?
Yeah, I think just looking at kind of like my mum's side of the family, so my great grandfather was a subedar in the army,
Wow.
and he was awarded what was equivalent of the Victoria Cross. So
Wow.
he was, for his bravery, he was awarded 125 acres, and his horse was awarded 12 and a half acres.
Hmm.
So actually, the family was always very much about being quite athletic, having really good leadership skills, and all of those things. Like that was kind of really kind of prevalent, and they always, you always achieve the best, and you have to have fateh in everything you do. um
Yeah.
but even kind of from my dad's side of the family, I would say, like, in practice, it was actually my dad that would kind of go with me to those like very early morning cycling
Training
competitions.
session.
And like, yeah, it was always him that kind of went, and he was like the my biggest supporter, I think. I think it was quite difficult
Mm.
because obviously my parents, they had shops as well, so my mum would kind of be at the shop, but when it came to these sporting events, my dad was like, right, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take
I'm
her.
the
And
one who's backing her.
yeah, yeah.
I'm taking her. That's really
Yeah.
wonderful to hear, and such a great example. So, doing mostly isn't talking sports wise.
Sorry, I just missed that,
That's
Bucky.
okay. So, what did you find was your favorite when it comes to sports as a whole?
Oh man, that's so difficult. I think some of the sports that I currently play are like tennis, badminton. I think those are probably my favorite. I really enjoyed running as well. So yeah, I think just kind of across the board, I think it's one
Mm.
of those, when you're into sport and you're like, and like, well, I wouldn't classify myself as an athlete, but when you're really into sport, you almost have got transferable skills that go over through all of them.
I
But
like
not only that, you can transfer a lot of the skills that you learn in sports. So I was the captain of the basketball team, but those leadership skills you take into practice into the corporate world. You take into, like, literally, you take them into practice everywhere. You've seen me take them into practice, and
I
for the
definitely
Sikh
have.
games as well. But yeah, you learn so many of those skills that you kind of take with you. So I think I just everything.
That's really wonderful. That's wonderful that you're kind of an all-rounder in essence. But what was really key there that I picked up, if you don't mind me sharing and touching on, is the fact that you were able to transfer these leadership skills, but also the participation skills, like a team
Yeah.
environment. So, if I'm just touch, if I can, with reference to that sort of sporting nature and attention, how did you transfer that into the corporate environment? Because you really have soared quite high in that arena as well. So, how was that transition happening?
I think it's just kind of understanding, like, your where your strengths and like weaknesses lie, and acknowledging them.
Mm.
But I think it's also about, like, if we go about thinking life that, I'm amazing and I can go and achieve everything myself, I don't think it really works.
Mm.
I think you understand the beauty and the power in teamwork and effective teamwork, and also encouraging your peers to do as best as they can.
Hmm.
So not just kind of doing something to shine yourself, but in a sporting environment, in order for the overall success, you all have to be a success. And I
As a team.
think, yeah, and then kind of with some of the organizations that I work with and some of the organizations that I advise, I think it's really resonating and kind of championing them, and in kind of showing them that you're really there to bring out the best in them and you're part of their team.
That is
Um,
that's magical. What a beautiful context and concept there. So I'm going to ask another question. This is really inspiring, by the way. So thank you very much for showing this side of yourself as well. So I've been working with yourself on board a couple of things, and you've got this uncanny knack of translating and attracting good people to a board. Does that make sense? And then once they're there, everyone sort of really wants to pull in and really give their heart. Give me some tips. What's been happening there? How have you managed this?
I mean, I would just say it's all Maharaj bringing everyone together, really.
Divine,
You
yeah.
know, and I just, for some reason, I just feel like whenever you think about doing something or you think about an initiative, and of course, like there's always going to be like restrictions, like and things that you think of, like what ifs and things like that. And it's almost like there's always an answer that comes along. And I think it's just believing and always trying to stay positive. It kind of reminds me of an example that actually Gurpreet Baji said, he's the president of Shepherd's Bush Gurdwara, where I'm quite involved, not on the committee, but I'm actually quite involved in trying to help him. And he said something to me about when we were looking for, someone to do flowers, you came, when we were looking for, we had an issue with our camera and we were thinking, oh, there's something going on with this. And literally someone walks up the steps of the Gurukar, they say hello, and they end up having a conversation, and they realize that, oh, this is what they do for a living.
I can do, and then you can help that. So it's that kind of that environment of you could say sequences of events.
Sequence of events. But I think it's also staying open and like having your eyes and ears open. Like a lot of the people that I meet, I genuinely feel like really blessed, when you come across these people, because even if that person isn't going to be the one, and it does happen sometimes, you think you approach someone, you think, oh, they're really well fitted for this, and then something will happen and they'll actually introduce you to someone else, because there's always a way. I think where there's a will, there's a way. People will come. But I think also the kind of projects and things that I align myself with, they come from like the real core of my heart, and it's really to make a positive change, and not shying away from sharing the idea with people with the fear that people are going to take it, but sharing the idea with people to encourage them to get on board and share a bit of the spotlight with you.
And do something with it as well. So
and do something with it.
It's a lovely conversation there. So give me a second. So you're saying that one of the key secrets that you've learned over the years as skill is to catalogue talent when you've seen it. So for example, if you've worked in an environment, you work in the mayor's office, and you find somebody that you can catalogue who's real beautiful, not just about connection, because most people, they make connections under the principle of, I can scale up the ladder myself. But you're what we classify as somebody who's not only healed and has achieved within your academic status, within your business world, but also in your charitable status and sector. So you're constantly looking for, I suppose, talent or skilled individuals who you're kind of like spidering all the time to think, that person could be handy in this scenario. Have I got this right?
Yeah, I think, and actually, it's not really just for the kind of organizations that I'm a part of. Like often, like I was kind of talking about the Sikh Games, and I connected with somebody, and she was actually a Muslim lady. So I said to her, this concept that we've created to encourage more children within the Sikh community to get into mainstream sport. I said, how wonderful would it be for you to try and start something there as well? Like it's having, the overall picture, and also encouraging other people to set up these initiatives and giving them and being that kind of support system as well. So I think definitely, like cataloging and understanding. But I think in order to really work closely with people, especially when it comes to these kind of initiatives, you really have to understand the core and where they come from, and the kind of what they visualize and what they do with their life. So I'm not very much just about seeing what someone's CV looks like. It's more about understanding them as an individual, and if they have a personality, which is a personality to make these kind of things happen in the world, so that
makes me feel great, Mandeep, because I think I'm working with you on one of the boards. I'm thinking, that works really well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mandeep, that's brilliant. And I'm telling you what, if anybody is just tuning in, you really need to understand that she's our guest today, Mandeep Moore, is somebody who's really done a brilliant job for society and social environments, but also you were going to touch base in a moment of reference of importance in life, of why she went into the legal profession in the Mo as well. But before we get there, Mandeep, can I ask a question? Now, I usually ask people kind of like what we call life-defining moments, something that's truly ignited and switched on the light switch. When the world is no longer a game or a blur, it actually becomes something very, very apparent, and you think, oh, I'm present. Something's just changed in me. Have you had any of those sort of moments in your world?
I would say quite a lot.
Wow.
I would say quite a few times. I think that this has kind of really happened. I think if I go to kind of like my earlier years, there was a point where on my right leg I was having these kind of issues, and it turned out that what was actually in my leg was almost like tumor.
My
That's what they
goodness.
kind of suspected.
Wow.
And a lot of the time, what kind of happened was I was kind of suffering with it for quite some time.
Mhm.
My parents were taking me to the doctors, but there was no visible signs. They couldn't see anything. To a point where some of the doctors, they were saying things like, "Oh, maybe she's just like seeking attention,"
Oh,
and my mum, I mean, she didn't really know, like, because my dad was actually in India at the time, so she potentially thought, oh, maybe it's got something to do with that. So she didn't want to worry him there as well, because it's like, when you're a shopkeeper and you just about make it out of the shop and you
yeah.
go there, it was like, we
Long
went for my,
hours.
yeah, long hours. So we went for my cousin's wedding. So we went for the beginning part. My parents, we were kind of there together for the middle, like just the wedding days. And then my dad stayed over for 2 weeks later, because it's obviously quite difficult, right?
In India, you
Um,
mean? Yes.
yeah, in India,
Yeah.
because the rest of our family was actually still in India, like from Australia. They'd all gone for the weddings, so he kind of stayed with them afterwards and got to chill there. But yeah, and I remember her kind of just calling, not knowing what to do, and calling like my Taji, my dad's older brother,
Yeah.
and he literally just kind of dropped everything and just came. And I think even as a 7-year
Wow.
old, I just thought, like, and he didn't live near us. He lived like an hour and a half away from us. And bless him, he couldn't even drive. He used to come in the train and things. He literally dropped everything. He had 4 of his own children as well. And he
Every
came.
every day to support you. Your
Yeah, well,
uncle
no,
traveled.
I mean, he just came for a week to kind of just make sure I was eating, and things like that. But, yeah, to kind of, to really kind of be there on that kind of journey to understand.
Mm,
And he then, when he was leaving, he said to my mum, he said, look, it's not about like, we know our child, like, we know that this child is
mm.
actually a really pure child, like, she wouldn't just go and do that, like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, if it
Meaning
was attention,
the
she's got
attention grab.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's got the person that's going to give her the most amount of attention, which is my Daiji.
Yeah.
Because he was obviously a lot older and I was the youngest in the family, because my dad's the youngest of all his siblings.
Wow.
So he said if it was about attention, she would have kind of, we've given her enough of that.
Already. Yeah.
Yeah, already. So then I kind of then eventually, we had a really good homeopathic doctor. We went through like some processes to try and figure out a way to actually work out what's happening, because obviously the kind of NHS, they don't actually just allow you to have scans. It's always like an X-ray, because the scan costs more money.
Mm.
So like literally to a point where it was becoming so big, the tumor inside me, but visually nobody could see it.
And it was
Um,
causing the pain. But so you're telling me basically that wasn't actually picked up. It was
Yeah,
just.
no, it wasn't picked up at all,
Mhm.
until like somebody, like a homeopathic doctor, actually gave a way in which to recognize what was going on. But I think, at the end of it, like what I kind of felt was I went to this feeling like really being scared, because the day that the leg just turned blue after a little
Oh,
like a
God.
trick that the homeopathic doctor gave us, he basically told my mum to put something in water, and he said if that, get a bag packed, get the car ready to go to the hospital,
Yeah.
because my dad was actually back by this point as well. And what you do is, if the leg turns blue after you've put this kind of oil and something in water, that means
Mm.
there's something inside there which is not right.
Oh
And you
my.
rush her to the hospital, and they'll sort it out then. So literally, they kind of like rushed me to the hospital because it went completely purple blue.
Oh my goodness.
Um, and they literally had to kind of, as they
They
did the
had to scan it then.
scan,
They
they
had to
they
scan it.
had to scan it, and they got so scared when they saw the scan, because it was so close to my bone, that they had to operate, because anything longer than that, they potentially would have had to
Into
chop
the
my
bone.
leg off.
Yeah, it would have gone into the
Yeah,
bone, right? Bone
and
marrow.
I would have been disabled.
My goodness me.
So yeah, and just to see, like, at that time, I remember, like, when you're kind of going through pain, you look around to see like all your family members supporting you. It's like people that you wouldn't even kind of
Mm.
you know, and now we realize when we work and how hard it is to get annual leave and to do all of those things, and you're like, oh, let me save that for this thing or this thing. But you know, you think you see people that just drop everything and just be there for you, and
So
that
that's
love
shocking.
and
That love and attention, that's shocking what happened with that period of time. And as a 7-year-old, how you picked that up as well,
yeah,
how you recited that within your life. But your uncle coming over and actually dedicating himself to yourself for that period,
yeah,
to see whether you're better, is just amazing.
yeah,
Um, so surrounding yourself, have these moments that, you know, like for example, you've got a support network in specific, yes, and this doesn't take a lot of people. From my years of experience of working with individuals, we found that if you've got one person who believes in you and has given you that support, that's enough, isn't it?
yeah.
But how have you seen that support coming through elsewhere in your life? For example, have you had any other um, defining moments? Because that's really, really deep. But because of being a child,
Yeah.
you would kind of face it differently, but a bit more as an adult. Have you had any of these sort of moments that really defined your life and thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I would say up until I got married to my
Hmm.
ex now, but up until I got married, it was always really positive things. I would say it was always like really positive people around me. We've got a very tight-knit family.
Hmm.
You know, I literally effectively like helped raise my cousins, my mama's sons. Um,
Wow. That's your
my
uncle as well, yeah.
babysitting skills, like, I mean, let's not
Shot
talk
through the
about some
roof.
of the stories and the kind of like obstacle courses we created. But you know,
I
and
think
of
that's
course, like
I think that's a signature, isn't it? Sorry to cut you there, but I think it's a signature because we created obstacle courses when we were younger as well. And then the second thing as well, and when I actually had when I got married, my wife was very surprised at how child friendly I was already. But she didn't know that I'm the youngest of my siblings as well, which also meant that I had actually
nephews and
been blessed.
nieces.
Yeah, I've been blessed with the nephews and nieces to be holding them, feeding them, and
Yeah,
all that shebang as well. So it's
yeah,
amazing how much you pick up as a child.
yeah,
Sorry, please do continue. I mean,
yeah.
with
No,
you
so
mentioned with your marriage, and you said ex
yeah,
marriage.
so I mean, up
Comfortable
until
talking about that?
yeah, it's okay. We've hopefully it'll help someone if I do share it as well. So you know, I'm
Bless
okay to share it. So it was a bit of a tricky situation. It was kind of we met, we really liked each other, obviously, enough to get married. But I think the real struggle that we had was the transition with the rest of the family. So I was told on my wedding day over a speech that I had 5 mother-in-laws. and
Oh,
and honestly,
so
now it may seem like this is crazy, like why was that, why were alarm bells not ringing? But because of the kind of family that we've got, you know, like all my buas, daijis and masia, mamia,
oh,
everyone is like so close together, and it just felt like, oh, that's nice, that's like 5 mums.
so just to clarify
Boy,
something.
was I wrong.
Yeah, so just to clarify, that's just wow. So if I can just double check with that one. So you got married, you met somebody, got married, and on the wedding day you got told you had 5 mother-in-laws, which you were really excited about because of the fact that you thought, well, this is great, get 5 mums, more the merrier, because you've come from this
Five,
warm,
yeah, 5 times the
hearted,
love.
yeah, it's your hearted, and so I assume that there was contradictions and stuff that you had to manage with as well. Um,
Yeah.
can I just ask a question? How did your support network actually support you during that time frame? Because you know, what was it like you were going through the divorce, and this is only to help anybody who's actually been through divorce or is going through divorce right now. Any tips and thoughts that you could give?
I mean, literally just telling myself that this was going to be like not headed in the direction of like happy families. I think that was the difficult thing for me to accept.
Hmm.
I think in terms of like our family, I think they kind of saw like I was a really happy person, and every time they would see me at events or like I would come home to my parents' house, everyone would kind of see this kind of side of me. It kind of like half of me had completely shut down.
Wow.
And it was really kind of real massive impact, I think, on you know, like personal attacks. So even when I was kind of married, actually I was doing really well. I was like just newly qualified as a lawyer. I was
Mm.
working for Slater and Gordon. I had my own events company which I'd started when I was
Mm.
about 24. 24, 25. And at this point we were kind of at like a growth phase. So now we, of course, we do like up to 25,000 people kind of type events at, like really prestigious venues, like public events, private events, corporate events. So we do kind of like a whole range now. But at the time we were really in our growth phase. But I just felt like it was constantly to try and bring me down, the confidence that I have, because obviously like, there's everything for me is like everything is on a spreadsheet. Like I would have the day in the week where I would do everyone's ironing. I would have the day in the week where I put the loads on, and like every night I would, I was very organized. I really took it into my stride.
But
fully committed,
with love,
and here's the thing, right? When I physically had so many mother figures in my life. Literally, they taught me how to sew, they taught me how to knit, they taught me how to cook, and like literally do stuff like which my mother-in-law couldn't do. So I think it just turned into this thing where they just constantly saw that as a threat. And I felt like where they say to you when you get married, don't ever say anything in front of your in-laws. I literally, and I feel like, I don't know if it's because when you're like, I find with a lot of kind of people that are like educated, they take things quite literally and they're like, okay, I'm not going to say anything, to a point where I almost became a doormat and went through like severe depression, kind of being there, like, and, like suicidal thoughts and everything. And I think, if there's one thing that really helped was Gurbani really helped.
The Sikh scriptures.
The Sikh scriptures. I think that was like, that brings you the inner strength to see things for what they are. But I think my family massively supported me. I did think that my mum was going to be the first one to say, no, don't say anything. It's okay. Just carry on with it. And I think I'm just glad that in that place that I was in some sense, I didn't become a different person. I carried on being myself. So my mum would always say this kahavat to me, "Dusre de avgun dekh ke apne gun nahi gavane." So by looking at somebody else's shortcomings, you don't let go of your own upbringing.
Wow. This is just so powerful, so deep. And honestly, Mandeep, first things first, thank you so much for sharing such a personal part of your life as such a healed individual who's been through so much when it comes to this kind of thing. And we're just scratching the surface. I appreciate, but the words of wisdom that you've been sharing has been beautiful already. And the fact that, thank you for sharing the thoughts that you'd had life-ending thoughts, and you'd got to a stage where you'd lost your own character, even though you'd tried to be the best person you could possibly be. And that's one thing I have noticed with yourself. You're always striving to be the best person that you could ever possibly be in anything you ever did. And for that, I commend and wish you all the best in that side of your life. And may you continue to achieve beyond what you expect.
Thank you.
Totally welcome. But there's something I really want to touch on there, that you just needed the one person to believe in you. When you came home, you became an empty vessel. You were lesser of a person. If anybody's going through any kind of these challenges now, if you're listening tonight and you're having these kind of emotional challenges, or you're in a relationship that does not suit you and it does not serve you, or is demeaning, as we've just had Mandeep share, please reach out. It's not okay to stay quiet about this. Not everybody has that support network, but you should speak to your doctor. You should speak to extended personnel and get medical help. They will actually assist you to get out of that situation as well. Mandeep, thank you very much for sharing such a personal and private part of your world. If you've just joined us, this has been the Empower Hour. We are talking to Mandeep Kaur Moore, who is such an astoundingly humane humanitarian, but also a legal body who's delivered in charitable sectors across the globe. She's just been sharing with us her own personal journey in her own actual real personal life, and how she's turned around having a tumor in her leg to learning how to walk again, the infrastructure, the love structure that you have around you. And this doesn't mean that you have to have people in your immediate family who believe in you. It could be anybody that really, really, truly believes in you as an individual. So please, if you've just joined us, please scrub back. This is episode 79. Scrub back to the start on YouTube and just watch it. This is Mandeep. So Mandeep, back to yourself. In context of where we were just talking about, and how did you get yourself back on your feet and move forward with aspects of life? What did you do?
I think it was quite hard because I think there's no kind of book on it. There's nobody that you can go to for really like for the correct guidance. I
Correct.
didn't have anybody in my family that had gone through this because obviously everyone is just really nice, which is kind of to my detriment because I'm like, damn, somebody give me some like
Feedback,
idea and guidance on how to deal with
advice.
these tricky situations when your like mother and daughter-in-laws plotting to throw you down the stairs and like honestly it was
Wow.
like it was
Goodness.
horrible, you know.
I hope
I'm just so
I
glad
never
and
wish
blessed
this
to
upon
be out
anybody.
there. Yeah.
I never wish upon anybody, and I hope that somebody's listening and is getting inspired to take action for themselves and actually turn their life around and remember that they are worth the person watching this. If you need this, you are worth this. And if anybody's accidentally moved themselves into a position where they're even being that aggressor in somebody else's life and realize that that's somebody else's, it's a living being and it's somebody else's daughter, son, it's not okay. Maybe extending a little bit of love may change that relationship considerably. So I hope this really helps somebody. But Mandeep, the question I'd like to take you towards, if I may, just so I can get clear. Today, you are a formidable individual, placed at the top of her game. You had your parents and they gave you the structure back, and obviously, as you said, you stood your own ground. It's very clear that you yourself wanted to relive. Does that make sense? Live again.
Yeah.
So going forward, so we could just understand a little bit about your present time. You've achieved so much. If I can just pick off a few, what really touches me is a fostering system that you've created, and in specific, it's called Khalsa fostering, which is very, very valuable in the open marketplace right now, and the communities per large. The South Asian communities are not very well known for fostering children. That means taking a child who needs a parent or parents and fostering them. So you're, in essence, challenging a taboo. And what's happened in this arena is I think you've made some great strengths, and so many people are talking so positive about Khalsa fostering. Khalsa being the Sikh, baptized Sikh name and the title given by a 10th Guru. So could you tell us a little bit about how Khalsa fostering is actually functioning and working? And if anybody is interested, I'll touch base a bit later, but tell me what it's about and what are the processes, please.
Yes, so Khalsa fostering is essentially kind of something that we became aware of. It was a conversation that I had with who is now the chair, Navleen Benji, and essentially a lot of she raised some concerns about a lot of children within the Sikh community actually are now starting to go into care, but
Mm.
this is something that's not on anyone's radar. So it's like although
Wow.
other types of seva definitely is, there's definitely charities to do with like kind of homeless,
Meaning
like
tithing, yeah.
food, there's loads of things that are happening, amazing things. It's not to negate those things. But she said that it's almost like an issue that people are suppressing. And so really I kind of started to have that dialogue with her to say like, how can we actually make it like, what is that? You can't tell me that and we can't like not do something about it. So
Wow.
we were literally sat, we went to an event, we met at an event at St. Paul's Cathedral that evening. So on the train journey back, she said, look, I know you go to Shepherd's Bush Gurudwara. I just want to talk to you. I just want to like share something with you. Just, I don't know how to say it to other people because I feel like it's not gonna like nothing's gonna actually happen with it,
Mhm.
but for some reason I feel like this urge to tell you. So I was like, okay, tell me, like, what is it? So what we did was we kind of called out, like I made a call in literal like in a WhatsApp group to all the guys at the Gurudwara and said, like, guys, we need to come together to analyze this situation to see how we can help. So there's loads of reasons as to why children kind of go into care. There's been situations where there's more substance abuse from both sexes. So as in, it's not just the father, there's more like females now also doing, taking drugs and
So
having alcohol addiction.
just to clarify something, that's within the South Asian communities, yes?
That's generally within the South Asian communities. It's just something that's not very well discussed. It's almost like there's a stigma attached to care. Like if you care for somebody and you take money for it, that is deemed as negative. Like people shy
Mm.
away from talking about it. Whereas if they are going to a job, which is, I would probably say it's less challenging, and they get paid, they're absolutely fine with it. So there's a real stigma within the kind of Asian community. I can't really go into like who it is that this happened to, but
Of course.
one time I went with my parents. It was kind of around the time my brother was getting married. We went to give somebody an invitation card to the wedding, as you do, and we
House
when
to
we
house. Yes.
yeah, when we drove up, in their window, I saw two children sitting there, and I knew their children were already a lot older and married and kind of gone. At first I thought, oh, it might be their grandchildren, but as I got closer to the stairs, as I got closer to the front door, I realized that actually they're not actually Asian children.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went in, and honestly, Baji, I was so excited to think, wow, like imagine this, they're doing seva for
Seva.
children that are not their grandchildren, like these are people not related to them, and they're helping.
So
That's
just to
something.
clarify, just to clarify something, so seva is tithing, zakat, and just assistance and charitable help,
Yeah.
selfless. But just to clarify, so you went around your these family friends' houses, and the particular elders who'd already got their children had grown up and gone,
Yeah.
being married, and so the parents themselves, which in essence are looking forward to becoming possible grandparents, decided to re-foster children.
Yeah, so they decided to foster
Wow.
children. But here's the thing, I went in there and I thought, oh, this is really nice. Like we can maybe like, I had some like sweets and stuff in the car, and I thought, oh, let me take them in for them. I wanted to have a conversation. I was so excited to celebrate what they were
Wow.
doing.
That's
And honest to
amazing.
God, Baji, they denied it. They said, there's no children here. There's nothing happening.
Oh my
And I
God.
just thought, like, I mean, like from a safeguarding perspective, I guess they probably didn't want to tell loads of people that they had the children there. But to shy away from something so amazing that they were doing was literally shocking. And I was like,
Amazing.
and then,
That's just, hang on a second, that's just shocked me. So they had gone through the process of actually having the children in the house and actually being their parents again.
yeah,
But they were uncomfortable to socially accept or have that conversation with you.
yeah, yeah.
That,
So that's kind of yeah. So I mean, really, there's kind of loads of reasons as to why. Like one is because people don't actually realize. Firstly, they don't realize there is a need for children like from the Asian community that are going into care. They also, it's the case of people are too embarrassed to actually take this kind of role on.
Mhm.
I think people also don't realize, they feel like when they become a foster parent, they feel like they're not going to be able to go to events anymore. They're not going to be able to take holidays anymore. And there's so many myths around it. So what Khalsa fostering essentially does is we educate people to tell them about what the need is, how you can support.
Mhm.
And to be honest, is like our strap line, as you would call it, is every hand can make a difference. So it's like, even though you may be like a professional, like kind of listening in today, and you might think, oh, I don't have time, I'm going to potentially get married and I'm going to do my
Yeah.
own things. No, there's still a way you can help. Can you potentially become a mentor? Can you be like that one person that connects with which we could help you with, connect you to an agency local, where you might be able to take them to the mandir once a week. You might be able to help that child and take them to the gurdwara once a week.
Or
Or
the
is it a case
yeah.
of, you've got fundraising skills, can you help fundraise so that we can make more noise? Because actually, since I've put Khalsa fostering and I've been talking about it on like my Instagram and things like that, I've had people from like Canada and America messaging me to say,
Well
oh my
done.
God, we don't have anything like this here. And we're like, and what I say to them is, okay, if you don't have it, if you're willing to, have a session with us, we can tell you exactly what we're doing. You can take this model and you can set it up in different countries. And the reason we went from we actually called it Sikh fostering to begin with,
Mhm.
but we changed the name to Khalsa fostering because we feel like this way is more universal. Because a lot of the times when you have things which are happening within the Sikh community, you see them also happening with the Hindu community. You
Yeah.
also see them happening with the Muslim community. So it's like the South Asian, a lot
So,
of the things and sentiments people are feeling, everyone is feeling.
yeah, just to clarify something, khalas means pure. So it's
Yeah.
just ritual. What we're saying is pure fostering. In
Yeah.
essence, khalas or khalasa is just a pure. In Punjabi, it means pure. So what a brilliant movement. And I'm going to tell you now live on air that I would like to be involved. This is just it's pulling my heart in beautiful strings anytime, and I'd love to put some effort towards this as well.
Thank you.
Khalsa Fostering, if somebody would like to get hold of you, to get involved, or to assist, to even become parents, how would they do that?
So you can quite literally reach out to us on our website, which is khalsafostering.org. And you could drop us.
Spell that out just for everybody. So
that's Khalsa, KHALSA, fostering, FOSTERING.org. And you can literally just contact us there, express where it is that you want to help. So maybe you want to help as a volunteer, you may want to help with fundraising, you may have another skill set that you feel that you can share, for that next generation. So wherever it is, you can get involved, or even if, it's really kind of a part and heart of the soul has been the two girls that are part of the organization as well. Again, and we just kind of just met through Instagram when, I was putting these posts out, but they actually went through.
Going back to the moment again, isn't it? When the person wanted the camera person, you turned up and they turned up and it all happened. So please, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, and with them, they went through care themselves. And a lot of the times there's like kind of some of the work that we're trying to do is focus on the importance of creating an environment for the child which they're familiar with, but also inspiring the best, out of the foster parents as well. So it's like they had the first person that they went to in terms of for foster care was somebody who was not Asian. She was an English lady, but this is, let's say, a 5-year-old acknowledging the fact that this person that's caring for them is making an effort to try and learn how to make a roti. A 5-year-old, even until today, when they have their own children, recognizes that. So
the one of the ladies who helped you was fostered, and she was fostered by a Caucasian white family per se, and that they, as a family, as an individual, the mum was trying to accommodate the cuisine per se. Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So, someone, and on the back of that, and learning more about and sharing their stories, what we've decided to do is on Khalsa Fostering we're working with like Chef Urbinder, who is doing like his 5 favorite dishes growing up, and we're actually doing tutorials on our website. So it's not just a case of, if you've got children that are likely to go into care, we want to create a net so that there's available parents around them. But equally, the children that have already gone into care, an opportunity for them to stay connected to their faith and their culture.
So that's amazing. So that same scenario. So with Chef Rabinder, he's actually going to be he's delivering the actual training for education on how to cook a sabji, a curry, or to cook a roast the Indian way, or something. That's amazing. So it's like teach yourself as well. So it's a community feel.
Yeah. So it's like kind of like easy dishes that children would enjoy. So he's doing his 5 favorite dishes when he was a child. But it's actually been amazing because some of the organizations that have come and partnered with us, like Basics of Sikhi, because like how might somebody feel like, like with these girls, and actually Baji was 2, the girls, Jessie and Kiran, when they were younger, their dad would take them to the Gurdwara every single Sunday. They knew how to speak Punjabi. When their dad passed, complete disconnection from a Gurukar, their complete disconnection from the Punjabi language.
That's the blood father, yes?
That's their blood father. So how can we, so with the help of Basics of Sikhi, we're working on creating videos of, what happens at a Gurdwara, what is a Gurdwara, creating like a calendar system so where all the celebrations and events are happening. So a lot of the Punjabi communities, with the girls, they shared this on one of our events previously as well, where ordinarily every year they would tie a rakhi on their brothers, but the 2 younger brothers were actually separated and went into different places. So of course the care person's never going to realize that these girls now need to meet their brother for rakhi, and they don't want to say anything because these children are getting moved from place to place to place. They don't want to create that because they themselves are scared to create problems and speak up about it, but with the fear that they might be moved again.
Oh my goodness. So fostering is very complex, and I understand the
Yeah,
full understanding of this. And I think what we'll do is in future, if it's okay with yourself, I might even have a complete session just on fostering.
absolutely fine.
It is just wonderful. But I'm aware that you've actually got an event, I think, in a couple of days on a direct live feed. Is that on
Yeah,
the website
so
as well? Is it on the website? Can someone find events on the website?
it's on our website. It's also on our like Instagram page. We've got Khalsa_fostering as an Instagram page. And there's a link to the Eventbrite there where you can sign up. We've actually got local kind of fostering agencies from
Yeah.
Dudley speaking. So we're basically doing it kind of geographically, so that we're giving all the different local authorities an opportunity to speak, because what it does is it gives us an opportunity as a community to communicate the message with those
Engage.
fostering agencies
Yeah.
alongside obviously the community that is going to come and help and be a part of it,
And
because
actually just
until
making it quicker as well. So integrate
yeah,
as
and
possible.
integrating
Lovely.
fostering those discussions as well. And
Yeah.
because I think until the girls never spoke about their journeys and how they were negatively impacted because they couldn't practice their
Mhm.
religion,
Yes.
people aren't actually placed according to religion. So this is something that we're trying to say. It's not to say that the person that's going to be the best possible carer is going to be
Has to
from
be
the
a Sikh.
same faith as
That's
them,
right. Yeah. No.
but it's explaining the importance of it. So even if they end up being connected to a family that isn't the same faith,
Yeah.
they can then connect to Khalsa fostering, so we can at least have a volunteer that's connected, get all their DBS checks done, that can still take that child on that journey where they stay connected.
So that's wonderful. So I've got to say to yourself, that's just a brilliant, brilliant explanation. So what I'll say is, if you're watching this as a replay, please go to khalsafostering.org and have a look at the events page and attempt, if you can, to communicate and listen to these online courses, right? Online events and online trainings and stuff as well. So amazing. We're running. Can you believe I've been talking for 15 minutes? How amazing is that? You know, honestly, I'm not joking, seriously, Mandeep. It's very hard to find something that's not interesting about you. So if you don't mind, I want to touch very, very quickly, please, if you can, about the principle of Sikh Games. Now, this Sikh Games it was a localized national sort of like event in Australia. So can you help me understand what happened? And you're bringing it to we're bringing it to a global platform. We're possibly bringing it to England. We are bringing it to England, and by 2022, 2023. So just help us understand what this is actually about in a short bite size, if you can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll try and keep it as short as possible. So there's loads of kind of focuses that we've got with the Sikh Games. Essentially, the main idea is to encourage more Sikh participation in mainstream sport, but
Hmm.
it's not the Sikh Games isn't just for the Sikh faith. So actually, we appreciate that as other communities aren't doing initiative like this. And of course, if anybody wants any help setting something up for any other community, I'm more than happy to
Wow.
help and support in any way that we can. But to try and really get more ethnic minorities out in mainstream sport. And secondly, it's really to try and bring our own community together. So a lot of the kind of Asian community, they've got, with everyone's got this kind of like caste system, different gurdwaras, different types of mandirs, different types of mosques. And it's trying to regionally connect people. So like example would be like in Southall, you've got like 15 gurdwaras. Every single one of
Yeah.
them normally would not even have a dialogue. What we try and do is we try and make them all part of one regional team, and everybody has a responsibility to take care of one sport. But at the Sikh Games, they come together and they support one another. Their
Wow.
communities are also mixing with one another. So we're trying really kind of that's kind of our like vision. We're also creating a space for disabilities as well, which is something that is pretty much never done within the Sikh community. It's always, is the wheelchair allowed in the Gurukar or is it not? Like that's where the dialogue ends. We've never gone to think, well, who's the person sat inside the wheelchair and how
Yeah.
are we going to help them on their journey?
And I was,
And
I was, to be honest, on that particular point, if I can just touch quickly, I was very lucky that when I grew up in the Peterborough area, our Gurdwara Sikh temple actually had an individual who was such a wonderful guy, a very intellectual teacher type level, but he was in a wheelchair, and there was never a restriction in him coming into the Gurdwara. And by the way, this gentleman was not a Sikh. This gentleman was a Punjabi Hindu, so there was no issue with him coming into the Gurdwara at that time due to I would say, finances of the community, there was no such thing as a lift or some way of getting in, because the actual Divan Sahib, which is the Gurdwara, the prayer room itself, was on the first floor. So he couldn't actually get there, but due to that reason, that individual went into the langar hall, the food hall, and there was a specific period. Obviously, it was just speakers in those days, no visual like we've got right now.
Yeah.
But it was speakers in those days where one would sit there and they would be participate within the actual prayers. So for us, it's very, very natural to see that. Amazing. Apologies. So basically, I need to move over into another section of this. But if anyone would like to get in touch with us with reference, you can reach out to myself as well, because I'm actually on the board as well. So you're welcome to get in touch with myself with reference to Sikh Games, and I will connect you with the right person if you're interested as a community to integrate. So this is such a powerful interview. I enjoyed every minute, and I'm quiet and I'm just listening to it all. But Mandeep, you've shared some beautiful parts of your life and how you always play at the top of your game. So I'm going to ask you a bit of a personal question, if you don't mind. And the question is really simple. It is, if I was to say that was an epitaph, and we're not asking this of the world, but as a Sikh you go through cremation, but if there was such a thing as an epitaph, if one was to say on this epitaph, after we've left this residency and we moved on into the light, if it would read something like this, I'm going to read a statement, and I'd like you to finish it off with something that's relevant to yourself, if that's okay. So the statement is something like this: here lies Mandeep Kaur Moore, the lady who. Please end it. What would you leave here as a legacy? The lady who did what?
Created a legacy of love and global empowerment, I would say.
I love it. I love it. Global empowerment, legacy. Thank you. That's amazing. And do you know, with yourself, I always find, what does that mean to you? Does it mean that, what does it mean to you? Because I see you as an opportunity maker. So help me understand. What does that one statement to yourself, the legacy of creating change and opportunity in life, in the world, mean to you?
Yeah, so I think I go through quite a lot of kind of, any walk of life that you go through, you'll always see opportunities, you'll always see things. And often, what people do, and I hear these conversations, is they complain why their community isn't doing it. Mm-hmm. But it's to then realize that actually you came across that issue because you were destined to make it happen, or plant a seed somewhere, or bring the people together to make it happen, but really to empower ourselves to have that control and create the world that we want to create, rather than just waiting around. And we all have what it takes, literally, it doesn't take a lot. Or sometimes it's a case of just one discussion to get that ball rolling. But
honestly, to me, sorry to cut there, but to me, you're an action taker. If there ever was an action woman, it was you. But that destiny, that conversation you said, when you touched on it earlier, on that you're supposed to be doing something on this planet, when it comes your way, you're not supposed to ignore it. You're supposed to be doing something with it. That's just beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing that with the audience today, the inspired tribe and people who listen. But there's one more question I want to put you on the spot very, very quickly. We're running short on time. If there's a pick-me-up, we all have dark moments, and there's times where our listeners today would be thinking, they're from all over the world, by the way. People from Fiji all the way through to Canada and Americas and Africas, everywhere. They all listen across the globe. So my question to yourself is that if if I said to you there's a pick-me-up that you use as a wisdom quote that really picks you up, what would that be that you can share with everybody, and why?
I think the one that I use a couple of times a day. For me, I think it comes from Sikhi. It's hukm andar sabko, bahar hukm na koi. So recognizing that everything happens according to the will of the divine, and then basically taking, and I think that's the biggest thing, right, in life. It's that acceptance of what's happened and why it's happened, and kind of just moving forward with it and staying positive with everything.
Beautiful. So again, that ties in beautifully with your statement, doesn't it, of legacy, that it's if it comes your way, you're supposed to be doing something with it, and you're going to do something with it. So step up, be brave. And you said earlier on fateh, fateh meaning victory. So be victorious in your way. That's just beautiful. Do you know, honestly, Mandeep, I'm going to say to you for my personal self, on behalf of the Inspired Tribe, which is the community that I represent, the Salam Radio app and radio 106.2 FM, myself, Sukhi Wahiwala, and anybody else who's listening who's tuned into my international channel, I want to thank you for being here and truly empowering us with your journey and your conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
An absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure. And for everybody else, this has been the Empower Hour. This has been episode 79. I really, really sincerely hope that some discussion from today has touched and created a change in your world, and the inspiration that you can take that action. Don't procrastinate. Realize it comes past you. This is specifically what Mandeep has been standing for, and she comes from a very healed legal background as well. So we didn't touch on so many things, but this is the Empower Hour. We hope that this episode has empowered at least one person on the planet. And I'll see you next Tuesday, UK time, between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock on my YouTube channel, Sukhi Wahiwala Official and Salam Radio. Thank you very much. See you in the next episode.